Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. This video is about, what was it about? Oh yeah, arrays and loops. And basically, in this, you probably already knew that, but in this video, not only are you gonna learn what loops are, how they work, and also what arrays are and how they work, but what we're also going to achieve in our mini game-ish thingy we have here, we have created so far in the last videos. Basically, last time we had this. Basically, you have this named player for now, but now let's rename that to players. And the reason I want to rename that to players is because if we go and head to the inspector, you won't see that because I have created it before the video as usual. But here, let's say we want to put 2. Click somewhere and you see that I have 2 new boxes here, 2 new fields. Now I can just get the player instances that we have created, the scriptable objects that we have created, which are of type player, of type player, and now let's drag this in there. Okay, now let's drag Mike over there, and what we have created now is we added 2 player instances in just this field here. So this field now contains 2 player instances. What we could also do, which is kind of cool, is we can add 5. Now we have 5 instances, and all of these instances can be either the same, which doesn't make sense if you want to put them, if you want to put the same player instance twice, but you know, whatever. But you can also have them basically have different players. So let's say we create another one, which is, let's say, called Josh. Josh is called Josh. He is 5th level, and his race is non-human. Now let's go to our players. Let's move Josh in there, and let's remove that and let it be just 3. So we did that only by using serialized field, which is this keyword here, which we have already used a couple of times, so you have to be familiar with it. If not, rewatch some of the videos. And then we are just using arrays and serialized field. That's all we are using to achieve this functionality here. It's really easy. Now, if I run that, and if I go to the console, you'll see that I'm printing Jeff information. So basically, I'm calling this print stats information on Jeff. I'm printing the name, the level, the race, and the damage. But what you can also see is I'm printing the same thing about Mike, and in the end I'm printing Josh. So what I'm trying to say here is I'm just whatever. Okay, let's say I have 5 now, and I have 2 more Joshes. If I run that, you will see that I'm printing 2 more Joshes. Yeah, there we go. So we have Josh here, we have Josh here. So what I'm trying to say here is we're looping, right? We are looping over all of our instances, and we are calling this method and this method where we're setting the damage effectively on every single instance. And the way we're achieving that is by using a loop. Now let's go and let me remove all of the stuff that I've got here. So we start from scratch. So basically, you see on the screen whatever you should have from the last video. There we go. That's what you have. Now let me first go over arrays really quick. Arrays are basically a list of elements that are of the same type. Now let's say we want to have a variable which is, okay, let's say we have k, which is equal to 0. Okay, that's one variable. Let's say we want to have another variable which will be of type integer and will contain 1 as a value. Now what if we say we wanted to have kj that will contain both k and j in just one variable? So when we say kj, right, kj contains 1 and 2. Both of these are stored in it. Well, that's what arrays are. arrays, again, they store the same type of variables in the same variable. Basically, okay. That's the syntax. And now what I could do is just say 0 and 1. And now, effectively, this variable contains 1 and 2 and 1 and 0 in it. So we could do also, right? We could have k1 will be equal to 0 and int j1 will be equal to 1, right? This is valid, but we can also do it that way. And let's rename that to something. Let's say integer array. Now the coolest thing about arrays are, just like variables, it can store any type there is and it can transform it into variable. So that means we could also initialize a string array. That would be days of week, let's say, and let's say we've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and let's say Friday, right? So now only this variable contains all of these values here. Now if I said days of week and then I say just 1, right? It won't work here, but if I say this and if I actually come here and say debug.log and then I say days of week, there we go. Now what do you think that would give us? Basically that's a syntax that is saying whatever number is between these brackets here, give me the value of it, give me that value. So basically what we're saying here is give me the first element of that array. So what is the first element, right? We got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So what do you think would be printed to the console when we actually say 1? So give me the first element, right? The first element of that array. So hold your thoughts, right? Whatever you think, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Let's go to Unity. Let's run that really quick. And that's giving me Tuesday. Why is it giving me Tuesday, right? Monday is in the first position, right? But for some reason it's giving me the second position. What the hell? Well, the reason that it's giving us Tuesday is because in arrays, elements start counting from 0. What I mean by that is, let's say we have this little drawing here, and this is the 0th position, this is the first position, this is the second, third, and fourth. That's how arrays count stuff, count the elements in it. So when you say days of week, and you want to get the first element, what you're really saying is give me the first element. And what is the first element? Well, it's that element that I'm pointing to right now. And what is this element? Well, we have Monday, but we also got Tuesday. So when we said give me the first element, we are coming and getting the first element, which is actually technically the second element because we're starting from 0. Right? So basically if you want to get the last element, let's say we've got five elements in an array and we want to get the 5th element, what are we saying? Well, we want to get the 4th element. So basically we're saying n minus 1, where n is the length of the array, right? So we've got 5 minus 1, which is 4. So when we say 4, we're getting the 5th element. So as an exercise now, what do we need to type to get the Monday, right? What do we have to write to debug log and get the Monday value? And not only Monday, but what would we type in here to get the Friday, basically the last element in the array? So pause the video and think what value we need to put in the brackets. Okay? Now let's do it. So to get the first element, which is the Monday, if we go back to our drawing, where is Monday? Well, Monday is in the 0th index. So what we're saying is give me the 0th position. Which is the 0th position? Well, it's Monday. Okay, because we're starting from Monday. Now let's see, how can we get Friday? Well, Friday is again the number of elements minus 1. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minus 1, so that would mean 4. Now let's save that, go to here. Don't worry about these warnings for now. There we go, we're getting Monday and we're getting Friday. Okay, so basically that's how you can access elements from an array. So that's all we need to know for now about arrays. I'll definitely expand on arrays in future videos, but for now, for our example, for this video, that's all we need to know. Let's delete now these because they were just for demonstrational purposes, if I can put it that way. Now, as I said, arrays can be of any single type. Okay, and which means that we can have an array of type player. How cool is that? We basically can say player, players, and then, you know, just have player, different instances, just like we did with an array. But what we want to do, instead of initializing it here, is we want to let us actually drag and drop the elements, the players, the scriptable objects, to put them in here. So how do we do that? Well, it's actually really simple. We're saying player, players. There we go. Now if I actually save that, go in Unity, let it compile, and we are seeing this. We're seeing players, what we had in the first place. So if we put 2, we're seeing 2 elements, or 2 players, 2 player instances that are currently none because we haven't put anything in there. So if we drag Mike there and we drag Josh there, there we go. So let's remove now this player instance because we don't need it. Let it compile. So now all we've got is this players field, and oh wait, okay, we need to remove these because now we no longer have player1 as a variable. Okay, there we go. And now the cool thing is, right, we have one field, and within this field we have other subfields, right? Because that's an array which has sub-elements, right? Makes sense. So that's arrays. That's how easy it is. And you know, if you want to add 3 elements, let's add what do we need to add? We need to add Jeff. There we go. Mike, Josh, and Jeff. So we've added them. And now if we run that, we're not seeing anything. Now we want to start calling set damage and print stats on every single player element. And now if you think about it, right, how would we actually call these methods on every single player in our array? Well, it's actually pretty simple, right? What we could say is just player 0 set damage, and then players 1 print stats, right? Set damage, there we go, set damage. Now let's just copy paste that, and that actually should be 0 because that's the first element, which is Mike, right? Element 0, that's what we're saying. So call player 0, which is Mike again. We're setting the damage of it, and then we're printing the stats. Now we want to do the same thing for the first player and for the second player, or in this case the third player technically. But now there is a problem with that. If we actually save that and run that, right? Let's run that. You see that we actually did that, right? We're printing Mike, we're printing Josh, we're printing Jeff, but there is a problem with that approach, because let's say we've got like 20 players. So what would we do then? Copy paste all of that, then paste it again, then paste it again, and then change all these indexes and all that stuff? No, because that's a wrong approach. What we want instead is use a for loop that will do this whole iteration for us. So we don't need to type all of these copy paste lines and modifying them and all that bad stuff. So the loop that we're going to use in this tutorial in this video basically will be for each loop. But there are many, there are two loops as well, which are for and while, which we are not going to cover in this video, but we are definitely going to use them in later videos. But for now, let's just stick to for each. Now, this is a syntax for each. You say for each, right? For each, and then you initialize a variable. You declare, sorry, you say player, and then let's just say p in players. And then what we really said here is we created a variable player, which is called p, but it's of type player, and we are basically saying in players. What is players in our array? So p, right, this p here will be Mike, Josh, and Jeff individually, not all of them, but individually. So first it will be Mike, then it will be Josh, then it will be Jeff, and if we add another one, then it will be Jeff again. How do we do that? Well, we just say p set damage, and then we say p print stats, and that's all we need to do. So what we say p is first it will be 0, then it will be 1, then it will be 2, or more specifically it will be first it will be Mike, then it will be Josh, and then it will be Jeff. And we're calling on every single p. Now let's rename that p to player. Makes more sense, right? Now that's almost identical as English. For each player in players, where player is our array of players, right? Call the set damage on every single player in that array, and then print the stats of it. And we have these arrays, these methods in our player class that we created, which is set damage and print stats, right? And we're calling that on every single player, and this player is of type player, and these players again just has player array of player instances. Okay, I just want to go through all of these small details so you better see how they actually work and why they work. So now if I run that, you see that we again printed Mike, we printed we printed Mike, we printed Josh, and we printed Jeff. Right? We got the same result that we had when we typed basically this. Oops, not this, but when it said players 0 set damage. You get the point, right? What we did before the use of the loop. However, now if we add a new player, which will be called Smark. I don't know why I thought of that name, but let's say Smark is 50th level, and is of type what is he? A fish. Let's say he's a fish. And now if we go to our players object, where we keep all of our players, and we need to add another player, which will be 4, and now let's add Smark there. Let's run that, go to console, and now we printed Smark without actually doing any changes in our script whatsoever. And if we did it in the previous approach, what we had to do is, since we created another player, we had to say player 3, then set the damage, right, and then players 3, then print the stats, right? And then if we added another player, we had to do the same thing. But since we are using for loop, basically the for each loop, it does all this process for us. We're saying for each player, which is of type player, and this is of type player, basically, this script here. And for each player in players, call these methods on every single individual method player. So I hope this makes sense, guys. And again, we'll go more in depth in players because, sorry, not in players, but in arrays, because arrays gives us arrays give us many methods, many functionalities that we can call on them basically. there are many things. Okay, let me put it that way. There are many things that we can perform on arrays, and yeah, I mean, arrays are really useful. This is just one really tiny thing of arrays. The fact that we can store the same types in one variable, this is, you know, this is just the fundamental of arrays. But there are many more things that we can do with arrays, and we are going to be using again arrays throughout the whole series ahead. So this is just basically an introduction to arrays and for loops, or in this case for each loops. But again, there are two more types of loops, and they are while loop and for loop, and we'll go through them as well. For now, I'm just going to introduce to the for each. Okay, and yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you on the next video. Bye.